Hi, I'm Amanda McKay. I'm a professional artist and I'm making these videos with creativity tips to help people become the most creative versions of themselves. For this tip, I'm going to be talking about going off on a tangent and why that can be a really good thing for your creative practice and your creativity in general. What I mean by going off on a tangent is that maybe you're trying to come up with ideas or just working on something for one specific thing, and then you think of something completely different, and I'm encouraging you to at least try going off in that other direction for a little while and see where it takes you, even if that means looking into a type of art or hobby that you don't even necessarily do. So I will give you an example of this for myself. I have a website that shows my artwork. I'm an oil painter and also a photographer, and my website is just amandamckay.com. But anyway, a couple months ago, I was actually trying to work on revamping the website a little bit. So that was my goal, and I was just coming up with I was thinking about rewriting. There's not a lot of text on my website, but there is some. And I was thinking of some different ways to rewrite it. And one concept that I've been talking about for the past couple years is feral feminism. And I was hoping to add some of that to my website. And I wound up not changing anything on my website yet, and I still need to go back and do that. But it got me thinking about doing a series of paintings called Feral Feminism. And that's actually a big project that I'm working on right now, and I'm expecting it to take an entire year. But it's basically because I went off on a tangent where I was supposed to be doing something productive and revamping my website. And instead I thought, oh, this is a good idea for a painting or a painting series. And then I just forgot all about the website. And I guess I shouldn't say I forgot all about it, but I haven't come back to it yet. But I'm really happy that I went off on that tangent. And so, of course, the opposite could sometimes be true. Maybe I could be thinking of ideas for paintings, and then I realize, oh, this is something that I should add to my website to change it, like some kind of text, something I could write about. But hopefully you can see how there's a big difference between a website about paintings and the paintings themselves, and how redesigning or writing different text for the website would be quite a bit different than coming up with ideas for a series of paintings. But the one led to the other, even though it was definitely not linear, and it was for sure going off on a tangent. So that's something I want you to consider. And I do have a previous video about don't censor yourself, and what I meant by that was when you're coming up with ideas, just let the ideas flow, and don't be worried about whether the ideas are any good. You know, even if you think it's a dumb idea, go ahead and, write it down, or, see where it takes you. But the same thing, so this is basically the same concept as that, where if you feel like you need to go off on a tangent, then go ahead and explore it, and you can always come back to whatever you were working on. And sometimes this could be something completely different than even, your type of art. Maybe you're a painter, but somehow you think about an idea for a short story. Or you're a musician, and then you're like, oh, this would be a really good photograph that I could take. Whatever it is that you're writing a song about something, and then you think, hey, I'd like to do a photo series about that, even though maybe you know nothing about photography. So these are examples of tangents. And then, of course, it's not necessarily going into a different type of art. It could just be a tangent within the ideas you're coming up with themselves. So maybe you're trying to come up with ideas for a short story about the Grand Canyon, and then for some reason you start thinking about, well, they have the mule rides in the Grand Canyon, and then you start thinking about mules, and then that makes you think about horses, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna think about an idea that's for a story involving a horse. So just that kind of thing, where maybe it's not what you set out to work on, but it's worth exploring this thing that takes you off in a different direction, and you can always come back to the first thing. And this is one reason I always stress having some way to record your ideas. I keep an ideas notebook myself, and then I have like a few different files on my computer that I just update with ideas that I add to it, but basically so that you aren't going to forget it, and then that way it's a lot easier to come back to whatever you were originally working on before you went off on the tangent. But definitely don't stop yourself from thinking of these other ideas, even if you had specifically set this goal of like, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to work on, but if you come up with something else, it can be very rewarding and very helpful to just at least explore it for a little while. So I hope you found this video to be helpful. Let me know in the comments if you've done anything like this before. And again, my name is Manda McKay, and thank you so much for watching.